My name's Roger Miller, and I am your worship associate for this morning's service. I welcome you to Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church, and we're very glad you're here today, either in person in the sanctuary in the Great Hall, or joining us via live stream. I offer a special welcome to any first-time visitors and invite you to sign the guest book on the welcome table here at the rear of the church sanctuary, or through a link on the online guest book and chat for those of you on Zoom. If you'd like to get to know more about what an amazing community Heritage is or how to get involved, I hope you'll reach out today to our board greeter, who is Mark Buckley. Please stand, yes. Oh, not Mark Buckley. Hi. Thank you. And she'd be welcome to talk with you after the service today. We're currently able to accommodate any and all who want to join us here at worship in person, either in the sanctuary or out in the Great Hall. The board continues to remind us that masks are required. You're also asked to leave the sanctuary and either enjoy the great outdoors, chilly though it may be, or gather in the Great Hall where you can visit and enjoy some community time after the service. Whether here virtually or in the sanctuary today, we're very glad you've joined us for what will certainly be an inspiring service.
Our call to worship speaks to what we are about here this morning and comes from my colleague, Reverend Leslie Takahashi. To worship means to consider that which has worth. Today, we consider with gratitude the many gifts of this community. The opportunity to be affirmed as who we are and to offer that affirmation to others. The chance to be in solidarity together to help remake the world, always seeking justice. The freedom to choose one's own path to truth and to learn from the travelogues of others. The space to expand one's own spirit and to reconnect with the sustaining truths of life after a busy or a humdrum week. Regular reminders that we must see the world through the lens of love. Regular reminders that all life is precious, for if all of it is made of stardust, can it not be wondrous? So this morning, let us welcome each of these gifts with gratitude, for they have been paid for with many currencies. The blood of martyrs who died so that we could be free in our worship and religion. The sweat of those who persisted in justice's name against hostility and adversity and aggression. The tears of those who struggled to build better lives for others. The questions of our children as they come to understand the world anew and offer us their understanding of it through a fresh lens. The laughter and joy of those who are giddy with the embrace of community. And the dollars and cents of those who gave what they could and then stretched even a little more. These infinite small acts of service that make the parts greater than the whole, done by those who found themselves to be in sympathy with our mission. With these things in mind and in heart, today we consider in gratitude and humility what it means to pay forward all that has been paid forward to us. Come, let us worship together. Thank you, William. Thank you, Forrest out there. Thank you, Kevin and folks at the tech table. We had a lot of bells there. We love our bells. Please rise once more in body or spirit and join me in singing our hymn of invocation, number 123, Spirit of Life, and remain standing for our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of this church.
The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine, thus to be covenant with each other and with God.
May be seated. This morning, we are here to talk about the stewardship of our beloved church. We are here to be reminded, as my former supervisor at the All Souls Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma used to say, there is only one reason to join a Unitarian Universalist church, and that is to support it. We are here to share and reflect on what it is about this UU church that inspires us, inspires our commitment, inspires our gratitude, our ongoing support. Why do we love this church so much? Why do we keep coming back to this community? What is it about Heritage that fills our hearts, challenges our minds, and sustains our spirits? Several among us will speak to this today, and more of you will do so in the coming weeks. And we get started now with Kathy Wade.
Good morning, everyone. So first of all, I have to say that Reverend Bill asked me to say why Forrest and I keep coming back to Heritage, and to do it in about 2 minutes. So I had to narrow it down quite a bit, and I came up with 5 really important reasons. So I'll start by saying Forrest and I moved to Andership Township in 2001, and we found out that we would be voting in a Unitarian church. And that especially pleased Forrest, who had grown up in a church with a wonderful Unitarian minister. I just liked the feel of the building. The first thing, though, that I noticed was the rainbow flag. Now, I knew I would never live to see that flag inside a Catholic church. It was a sign that all are welcome and no one is judged. That's number 1. So we kind of hung on the perimeters for a number of years and then became members around 2007. And one thing that impressed me was the weekly offering called Sharing Our Abundance, which was a refreshing way to think about what I had known as the collection basket. that Heritage set a goal to make every week an outreach Sunday felt so generous and other-centered. And for as many years as we've been coming to Heritage, Regina Pugh, has helped us discover organizations far and wide and near who need our attention and our energy and our caring support. That was a risk Heritage was willing to take, and it influenced and it upped our level of giving. We were invited more than once to get involved here at Heritage. That's number 3. And the bonus was that it helped us to get to know others and to get to know ourselves better. As a member of Heritage, I can say that I have felt empowered to be a leader and to contribute my gifts and talents. Fourth, we support Heritage because we believe it is a prophetic voice in our world. Our ministers speak truth to power, are committed to social justice, and offer us opportunities to be prophetic ourselves. In this challenging time, we need prophetic voice more than ever, and for that reason, we keep coming back. And finally, love is the spirit of this church. It's not an empty slogan. I feel loved here at Heritage. I know Forrest does too. When we gather at the benediction, I can look around the circle and I can say that I know almost every person by name. That's big. For all these reasons, we support Heritage. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. All right, so for our timeful ages today, I am going to tell you a story. And it's an allegory, it's a metaphor. It's most probably not going to be so veiled once you hear it, but it is a lovely story notwithstanding. To make the story that much more interesting and exciting, though, I would like to invite some of you to come forward and serve in non-speaking roles in the story. By which I mean, I will tell the story and you will act it out, and then you can go back to your seat. I will tell the story regardless of if you participate. But I promise you, it will be so much cooler if you participate. So here's the test. I need a tree. As the story is called, Sustaining the Tree of Life. Would someone who is maybe tall be? All right, let's come over here, tree, right in front of the altar. Okay, very good. Yes. The tree stood in the middle of the village. Its trunk was so large that it took 6 people holding hands to reach around it. The roots were strong and wide, and its branches spread out over the village square, offering shelter from the rain or shade from the summer sun. Its fruit was juicy, sweet, and plentiful. The people of the village loved the tree. Here is the next opportunity. Here I would like to invite our children to come forward. I actually need like 5 volunteers. So if all of the children can come forward, if you would like, you don't have to. This is a sort of choose your own adventure. Okay, everyone. Now, I have 4. So are there any 5? There we go. Thank you. All right. Let's line up here. Just line up in a row, and I will tell you when to go. Okay. All right, here we go. Cadence, you are going to go first, if that's okay. You are going to be the children, okay? Children played beneath the tree. Play, just play. Like dance, mate? Play. There we go. Yes. All right. Now, Emmett, you're going to be next. You're going to be the young people. Young people knew that if they whispered their dreams to the tree, they were more likely to come true. Can you whisper a dream to the tree? No. Okay. Well, that's okay. All right. Will two of you go and stand underneath the tree together? Any two? Ellie, do you want to go with Dave? Would you go with William? Yep. There we go. People who proclaim their love or friendship for one another beneath its branches found their relationships to be nourishing. Okay, Juliet, you're going to be last. You're going to be the elders. Okay? And elders discovered that their sweetest memories could be counted on when they were near the great tree. The tree had been witness to so much, and when the breezes blew through the leaves, one could hear echoes of generations. Laughter, conversations, dreams, prayers, and songs. Okay, so you're going to reprise another set of roles now. Now you all will be animals. Ready? Okay. Animals loved the tree too. Rabbits lived in burrows under the roots. Okay, very good. Squirrels and monkeys lived in its branches. What does a monkey look like? Monkeys? Oh, there we go. Bats and birds flew in to eat the abundant fruit. There we go. The tree seemed to buzz with life. Thank you, that's perfect. You all can either sit here or go back to your seat if you'd like. Either way, there you go. All right, not yet. Now I need two folks who would like to play a more central role in the story. Any two takers? You just have to stand here. It's quite easy. All right. Very good. One of you, you will be the merchant. Luis, you will be the villager. Okay? One day, a traveling merchant arrived in the village and rested in the shade and ate 2 delicious pieces of fruit. "This fruit is incredible," the merchant said. "I would like to have some to sell in the next villages that I visit. Who owns this tree?" "No one owns the tree," replied the villager. "If anything, we belong to it." "Well then, if no one owns the tree, then no one will mind if I pick the fruit," said the merchant, and began to fill their basket. "I mind," said the villager, "and today I am the keeper of the tree." "What do you mean, keeper of the tree?" "We each take our turn being here with the tree. We could never own it. We are protectors and sustainers." "That's ridiculous," says the merchant. "This tree doesn't need you. You could just take what you need. Take what you want. The tree will continue." But the villager couldn't be persuaded. "This tree isn't like that. We don't come here to take from it, even though we receive much. We are keepers of the tree because this is where we are nourished. This is where some of our most precious memories are and where our people have dreamed. This is where we remember who we want to become." "Well," said the merchant, "you may think that this tree is very special, but it still doesn't need you to sit with it. That is preposterous." "Ah," replied the villager, "the tree itself may not need me, but what of others who come by? Just this morning, I sat with a woman whose heart was heavy with worry. Had I not been here, she would have had to carry that weight alone. And this afternoon, a tired couple came by, and they rested with me. They said they had been looking for a place like this. And then an elder came by, and we watched the birds in the branches together. And now you are here. You were confused about what this tree is and how to be with it. Imagine if you had arrived and not found anyone here to talk with. You might have continued thinking that everything you do is all about you. Luckily for you, my friend, I'm here to let you know that when you care for the tree of life, it becomes so much more than just about you. And the merchant sat for a while in the shade, thinking about these ideas that felt new and a little challenging. And as the sun went down, the merchant picked up their bag and headed out of town, whistling a song that they hadn't thought of in years. On the way, the merchant shared a smile with each person they met, their heart feeling strangely light and joyful. And the people of the village, they continued to sustain the tree of life, to care for one another, and to share their gifts with grace and gratitude. May it be so for us today. Thank you.
And now we will sing the children and their teachers on their way with the children's recessional. It's in your program. I assume, will be here. We're going to sing it through twice, and because in honor of Bob Lamb, who did this hard work for so long, he touched the earth, he reached the sky. So we can sing it twice at least. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Michael Wilhite, a proud member of Heritage Church and also serving as your current board president. And I had a great opportunity to kind of share my testimonial this morning. Our family first came to Heritage almost 8 years ago. We had been living in Anderson Township for 2 years by that time, and we had probably driven by the church dozens of times without ever giving it a thought. I had assumed that a Heritage, just like most of the churches here in Cincinnati, was very much the same. I was probably not a church person, and had run out of patience finding a fit where I needed to rationalize or explain doctrine that did not align to my personal values and how I looked at the world. Fortunately, my self-proclamation one day with another father on our kids' play day opened my eyes to Heritage. He and his family had been attending Heritage for years. He boldly corrected my assumption about Heritage as he bluntly stated, "Heritage is not your typical church." Wow, was he right. I am grateful for the timing of that conversation that brought our family to Heritage. As a parent, I was concerned about what our son was missing out, not being a part of a spiritual community as he was developing. But I wanted the values of love, inclusion, social justice, and exploration to be at the heart of the message. These were our family values, and we found these reinforced by the Heritage community. This support came in multiple forms: in an accessible and engaging religious education program, the honest and loving messages from the pulpit, and most importantly, the role models in this community who live these values every day. With our son Sam, now a freshman in college, 1,500 miles away, we just saw him last week, I am always grateful to see the imprint that Heritage has had on the adult that he has become. I know that Lacey will help even more families make this same connection in years to come. But I'm also grateful to Heritage for the spiritual support it has provided to me personally. The timing of when we found Heritage again was key. As someone who has faith in humanity's ability to make progress, the past 6 years have been a tad challenging. I certainly have struggled keeping that faith and stopping the concern and despair from overwhelming me. Heritage has helped keep me whole. Sometimes it is exercising my intellectual side by opening my eyes to understanding that I would have otherwise missed. Often, simply knowing that I'm not alone by finding strength in a community with shared values is what I need. Sometimes, like our service 2 weeks ago, it is simply embracing joy and community with wonderful people to recharge the spiritual batteries. I know for sure that Heritage helps me through these times, and for this, I am grateful. For me, it is inspiring to be a member of a spiritual community that has existed in Cincinnati for 195 years. I am a Midwesterner, born and reared, and at a young age, I found my rebellious and contrary ideas didn't quite sync with the norm. I finally found my people at Heritage Church, and becoming a UU has been a life-changing experience. In these challenging and polarized times, Cincinnati needs this supportive community of Heritage Church now more than ever. This is why I support Heritage.
Thank you. Because we are an open, loving community, we do feel called to share our joys and sorrows that we carry in our hearts. Our candles of community ritual brings us closer together, and in the process multiplies our joys and softens our sorrows. Each of you has had the opportunity to share your request this morning, either via email or by writing in our book of candles at the back of the sanctuary before the service. First, I'll be reading those that have been shared in advance by email, and then I'll move on to the candles book. Let's light a final candle now for the joys and sorrows that we carry in silence today in our hearts.
How do I love the HUUC? A testimonial and reflection by a minister who has loved his share of congregations, but finally settled down with just one and is eternally grateful that he did. How do I love the HUUC? Let me count the ways. Let me start with the choir. One way. I love that this church sings about community, that it sings about and works for peace and harmony in our world and in our church. I love that this is a church that sings, period, that sings amid the shouting that grows louder around us every day. A church that answers its sacred call to love our neighbor as ourselves. I love that 2 decades ago, I received a communication from 7 members of this church, including Bob Booth and Joanne Stoffregan, both of whom are here this morning, that said the following by way of introducing this congregation to me. Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church, in keeping with its Universalist history, continues to offer an alternative to more Unitarian-focused churches, maintaining the Universalist Unitarian balance that we value and focusing on both head and heart. We are passionate and provocative in embracing this balance between spirituality and the intellectual. Both God language and humanist language have important and respected places in our liturgy. Now let's unpack that introduction for a moment. For those whose only swimming in UU waters has been here at Heritage, those words may not seem very remarkable. Trust me, they are. In the space of about 4 sentences, this congregation expressed a commitment to things like spirituality and God language and the heart, some of which are sadly very, very unusual in UU churches. In the span of about 4 sentences, it stressed balance, harmony, bringing together different ways of thinking and feeling. And it lifted up out of the shadows, centered universalism. I love that this church is called Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church, where not only the Universalist comes first, but where quite literally our heritage comes first too. How do I love thee, HUC? Let me count the ways. I love that love itself is centered here. Love, which of course comes from our Universalist heritage and tradition, love is the spirit of this church. I invite you now to say again with me for the 2nd time this morning, and most of you don't need to look at a bulletin in order to do this, but if you do, that's okay. If you are here long enough, you will come to a time where you don't need to do this. Let's say our covenant again one more time. Close your eyes if you can. Feel it in your heart. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. Now let's unpack that for a moment. Love is the spirit of this church, the very essence. Love is what animates us, gives us life, and it makes that life meaningful. We also value truth. Boy, oh boy, in a world filled with untruth and malignant misinformation, barefaced lies, dangerous superstition and aggression, the quest for truth is our sacrament. It doesn't get much more important than that right now. We offer service to a hurting and war-torn world. We seek peace, There is freedom, fellowship, harmony in our covenant. And it is a covenant that we make not only with each other, but with the divine. How can I not love and love deeply such a church as this? A Unitarian Universalist church that will lift up such ideals and aspirations, such shared beliefs, not just on one or two religious holidays a year, but each and every week, year after year, and generation after generation. And finally, at least when it comes to the covenant, I encourage you to simply note that yes, Virginia, we do have a certain set of words in this church that we consider sacred, or at least important enough that most folks know them by heart. Our covenant, our benediction, maybe songs like Spirit of Life, all are part of our liturgy and thus reflect who we are. I also love that we are able, and again, there's that balance, we are able to laugh here, to love one another and trust one another enough to let our guards down and be ourselves, which might sometimes include having a good laugh, laughing at ourselves, as well as the absurdity of some of the things we see around us. We smile a lot, and it breaks my heart that by and large, for the past 2 years, those smiles have, by necessity, out of love for our fellow human beings, been hidden behind masks. But those smiles are not totally hidden, because for 2 years now, I hope you've noticed, you can actually see those smiles now in people's eyes, radiating from eyes that are filled with love and laughter, as well as pain and tears. Eyes that are the window into so many beautiful souls. And speaking of pain and tears, we do not shy away from the sorrows of our lives, even as we celebrate the joys. We grieve together better than any congregation I have ever known. For that, I love the HUUC. Everyone, even ministers, needs a community that will hold them through all the magnificent splendor and sorrow that is a human life. Everyone needs and deserves to be part of a family, whether by birth or by choice, that in the words of Rick Maston's wonderful hymn, "Let It Be a Dance," a community that will share the laughter and bear the pain together. Everyone. As the saying goes, no exceptions. Heritage, those are some, just some, of the ways I love thee. And because I love thee, I support thee. Everyone, including ministers, I believe, who finds a community like the one I've just described, like the one Kathy and Michael have described this morning, like the one our choir has sung about already. Everyone is called to do what they can, and yes, give what they can, to not only maintain, but to grow such a community so that others can experience its heart-opening, life-changing, unconditional love. Though I have tried today, in truth, I cannot begin to count the ways that I love Heritage Church and you. We've been through a lot over the past 20 years, but like any good relationship, and this is a good relationship, we have learned and grown and become better people together by virtue of that relationship. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. And now I invite you to join me and one another in a spirit of prayer and reverence. Great mystery we sometimes call God. We have come together this morning to reflect on how much this community we love and how much this time together we share means to us. We've come together to be reminded of just how blessed we are to be part of an unconditionally loving, fiercely hopeful, deeply committed, and profoundly open-hearted community. A chosen family made so by our choice to join, to support, and to be there for one another. To be there for this church, which, like you, Great Spirit, was here long before we ourselves arrived and will be here long after we are gone. May we remember that, like gentle gardeners, we are here only for a brief time to tend to the bounty that we have been given, to help it grow and thrive, to be part of a larger and much more mysterious process that brings it all to fruition, and ultimately to bless it and share it for the greater good. May we acknowledge this sacred trust and the responsibility it places in our hands. May we be worthy stewards of our cherished past, our shared present, and our unseen future. This we pray with humility and hope in the name of that greater love which forever holds us all. Amen. Let us move now into a time of silent reflection and personal prayer. May we ever honor the Spirit of life in each and in all. Amen.
One of the things that Heritage does for me is give me a community where I can pool resources and talents to serve the larger world. Helping plan and coordinate our outreach offerings over the years I have attended, and hearing from many in the congregation how these offerings also mean a lot to your Heritage experience has meant a great deal to me. Today, we offer our continued support to the local organization many of you know as Interfaith Hospitality Network, or IHN. It's always a good reminder that this is a different organization from another of our favorites, Interparish Ministry. It's easy to get them confused. IPM provides food. Today's offering provides shelter. IHN recently changed their name to Found House, but their services did not change. They provide emergency shelter and housing programs for homeless families and provide assistance for those families to achieve long-term stability. In 2014, they added the Pet Support Program to allow families to retain pets rather than surrendering them to an animal shelter and adding heartbreak to an already extremely stressful situation of homelessness. Since 2006, First Unitarian Church in Avondale has been a host congregation that housed families during designated weeks in their church, and Heritage has been a support congregation. The pandemic required a shift in structure that is still in place that houses families in hotels, with the churches supplying support resources. And there are two ways that you can help today. One is you can visit their website, which is foundhouse.org, and that link will be available all this week on our church homepage. Your own online donation will help cover the cost of their many services and will go obviously directly to them. Donations of cash or check to today's plate will help buy supplies needed for our volunteer weeks, including the upcoming Easter week. Members of the Heritage Social Justice Collaborative check with Found House to learn what they need most, and in the past we've made deliveries of things like lunch meat, cheese, eggs, milk, bread, and most recently they asked for women's underwear. Remember, if you are using the plate today for a pledge payment, please put pledge in the memo line of your check so that it gets allocated correctly, or put pledge on your blue envelope. The morning's offering for Found House will be gratefully received. Thank you for your offering. We send it with love. May it serve well.
Last month, we asked some folks to tell us what they love about HUC. Here is what the Walczewskis, Kate and Jack, and their parents, Luke and Aaron, had to say.
I like doing fun activities. I like playing outside when we do activities in the playseat.
So we love all the children's activities at Heritage. The church has great outdoor space, and the kids really like doing things outside to explore the area around them and everything that the church has to offer through the community.
Reed Hester, and I'm Stewardship Chair here at Heritage. And it is a great pleasure to be standing here in person behind the pulpit to launch our stewardship season this year. It is a reminder to me, something that's burned in my consciousness, that this is precisely the point at which we entered lockdown 2 years ago. This is precisely the moment at which we scrambled to figure out how to manage a video service that was even pre-Zoom and really quite archaic the way we handled it there the first week or two, but we pulled it off somehow. And so it really reminds me of the value of this ability to be together. I hope for all of us, this can be one more element of the stewardship season for us, given the timing of when it falls, of that value. And I think this morning's service has been such a lovely set of reminders for all of us, all of the testimonials that we're hearing. And Reverend Bill does such a wonderful job, I think, every year, but I think especially today, of organizing a service that elicits all of these emotions and reasons why we are here. And this is one of them, I think, is our love of being together. But I'm also reminded, as I come here and physically stand behind the pulpit at this point in the service, that sometimes, even after such lovely messages, it's my coming up here and standing that elicits a little squirming, maybe. Okay, this has been a nice service. This has been so great. Oh, but this is when it kind of gets real. But don't worry. Please don't worry. I'm going to make this very easy for all of you, as easy as I can. One of the few things that I've been doing longer than running pledge campaigns at Heritage is running. And in fact, this morning, I come to you after having just run the Hart Mini Half Marathon for the first time. And I'm training now for the Flying Pig, so this was part of that training process. I've been running for more than 20 years. And in fact, I started the process of training for the pig a couple of years ago when it was canceled in 2020. And in that instance, I was running and training just with one friend who had run the pig before and kind of organized the routes, and he was my sole support network in training for the Flying Pig. And it went well. I developed a lot of aches and pains. And then things came to a full stop, obviously. So as I train this year, this is my deferral. And my good friend who I trained with a couple of years ago is having some knee issues. He's training on his own. I think he'll run it, but he's not entirely sure. So I decided I needed to join a training group in order to really get to this level of running, because I knew I couldn't do it on my own. And even though I've been running for many, many years, very casually, joining a training group is a completely new experience for me, and it has brought me back to what it feels like to be a beginner, to do something for the very first time. Learning how to stretch properly, learning the importance of pacing in just the right way, each week a little bit different as you build towards the race. Learning how to build strength, hill repeats, the two most awful words in the human language put together, to prepare for those longer distances. Learning how to manage nutrition at the right points in a race. These are all things that I have had to approach really as a beginner. They were things that my friend and I, when we trained a couple of years ago, sort of figured out as we went along and did our best, but I've learned so much more. This idea of running with a group, of having a pace group leader who is kind of our teacher in this process, has accelerated the learning dramatically. So what are some of the elements in life of being a beginner? Well, you have to read the instructions. You have to listen carefully, and you have to ask questions if you don't understand something. And you have to recognize where you might have built-in assumptions or where you're taking things for granted, and then you need to account for that in your own willingness to set aside those assumptions and try to have a fresh perspective. So that is what I am asking of all of you for this pledge drive, and this is where I hope it can actually make things easy. Treat this as if you were a beginner. And the good news is, many of us in this congregation are just that. We have lots of new members. We have folks who may have joined us over Zoom and are here together with us for the first time. We have folks who really don't understand what pledging is, and I encourage us all to put ourselves in those shoes and really take that beginner's mindset. And I want you to understand that this theme of being a beginner is really much more about your listening than it is about my message. Because as I learned in a seminar I did years ago, there's a concept called already always listening. That we are listening and already hearing something, assuming what we know is being said to us most of the time. Absolutely human nature. So it's kind of hard work. I said I'd make this easy, but it's kind of hard work to get over that. And I really encourage you to challenge yourselves to recognize when you're doing that this year. Every year I have to decide how to target my messaging for all the different categories of members and friends, and I'll still do that this year. I'll still tailor my messaging appropriately between sustaining pledgers and new and longtime members, pledgers who give via EFT, and those who don't. And I'll do a lot more to really tailor my message to each of you as your different circumstances dictate. But I do need you to meet me halfway. Even if you are a longtime member, even if you are a sustaining pledger, and thank you for all of those who are. About a third of our pledges from last year are sustaining pledges. I still want you to open the email, click on the links, read our stewardship website, read about what we are trying to achieve with this pledge drive this year, and consider your pledge anew. Talk with others at the church. This might be, I think it certainly is, the most important part of my message as I implore you to approach this as a beginner. A beginner needs to check in with other people, to ask questions, and I encourage all of you to talk with one another, longtime members with one another, longtime members and new members. Have those conversations, just as we've done this morning, about why we support Heritage, how we approach our pledge. It's one thing to talk about what makes us love this community. It's quite another to talk about, but how do I translate that into what my pledge is and how much I should be giving to the church? I give you as much data as I can in terms of our average and our median pledge, which is quite healthy, by the way. Our average pledge has increased over the last year. But part of the reason it's increased, and I think this is a very natural effect of the pandemic, is just we're struggling a bit with engagement. So we had a higher average pledge last year, but a significantly lower number of pledges. We're right at about 91 pledges for the church year we're in currently. And in prior years, we'll have as many as 115 or 120 pledges. And we certainly have the membership and the sort of people power within Heritage to get back to 115, 120 pledges. So that's really part of what needs to happen this year, is engagement and communication among all of you, getting to a significant increase in our budget and kind of getting over relying on some wonderful federal funds that helped us in the last year so that we can get back, kind of bootstrap it back to a balanced budget, is not just a matter of those of you who are longtime pledges increasing your pledge. It's really a matter of increasing the number of pledges that we have. And I think if we can do those two things together, we can really achieve a lot this year. So what are some of those things we're trying to achieve? As always, we want to fairly compensate our staff, and we're always looking to align ourselves with recommendations and guidelines from the UUA that are specific to our size congregation and our region. So it's very calibrated to the kind of church we are. But we do find that we're on a journey to get there in our compensation. So each year is one more step in that direction, and without a doubt, the compensation of our staff takes up the vast majority of our budget in any given year. We also have goals to expand the hours of our church administrators so that Valley is able to support the activities of this church more effectively, and in many ways, as we've taken on so many more layers of what we're doing in our services and what we're doing each week, we need that support. We have a goal of expanding the hours and the remit of our Director of Lifespan Faith Development so that Lacey might potentially have a membership development role in her purview, which would be an amazing benefit for us. Lacey has requested a significant, in kind of comparative terms, it's not significant in our overall budget, but comparative terms, in our RE program budgets, so that she can do more with the youth. And I'm seeing more kids coming into this church recently, which is wonderful to see. But remember that there's also an adult faith development component to Lacey's work, and that means new curricula, new programs there. And of course, we need to make an ongoing investment in the maintenance of this church facility and the repairs. As I look back over here at the missing ceiling, insurance will cover that one. But this is an aging facility, and we need to be investing so that we are ready when these things happen. And we have increased costs across the board, as does any individual or any organization in 2022. So that is one more pressure on our budget going into next year. So that's the what. And of course, the how is all about you. I've already talked to you about engagement. We need to have a higher number of pledges this year. I'll be working with the board to provide some opportunities for engagement among members and friends so that we can create gatherings over Zoom, perhaps some in person, where folks can sign up to attend and ask questions, ask questions about pledging, ask questions about budget priorities. Our board sets those priorities with me at the beginning of each pledge season. Our pledge goal is quite deliberate, and it is not a dartboard approach. It's really based on real priorities. So we'll have some opportunities for folks to sign up and attend and talk to one another, and also build community in doing that. And finally, we'll wrap up our pledge drive in time for the budget to be disseminated among our congregation prior to our annual meeting, which this year is on Sunday, June 5th. So our pledge stewardship season typically goes a couple of months into about maybe the end of April or the first week or so of May. So I beseech you all to have your conversations and take your fresh perspectives and your thinking to your pledge in the next 2 months, so that we have a pledge number that's been reached by that period, so that the board can set that final budget a few weeks before the annual meeting. And I had the great experience last night of starting to send our wonderful pledge emails and going onto the Breeze website and seeing that it was not functioning. This is our first year of using this new church kind of database management system, which is actually quite a benefit for us rather than a Google form. And I clicked on the link to go to their kind of support page that says what's going on, and then it says when they've had outages, and it was like day after day of everything's great, no problems, until March 12th. So they're back up and running this morning, and in the spirit of letting no crisis go unwasted, it has now generated 2 emails that I could send to everybody about pledging. So maybe it's a good thing. Do let me know if you have any questions about the process. You'll all know how to reach me if you don't yet, and if you are wondering, am I on your list to get an email? I'd like to support Heritage, but maybe you're new and want to make sure, please approach me here today, and we'll make sure and get that taken care of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, choir. May the fire of commitment continue to burn brightly in our hearts in the year ahead, and may our deep commitment to this one-of-a-kind community we call Heritage be reflected in our attendance and participation, in our volunteering, and in our generous donations to support the work and mission of this church. The closing words this morning are from Unitarian Universalist minister and essayist Elizabeth Tarbox. I say that ours is a story of faith. It is a story of hope. It is a story of love. I say that it is our need for one another most of all, our love for one another that binds us together, that brings us laughing and limping into relationships that are like threads weaving us together as a community. And I say that there is something of transcendent value in this community, right here, worthy of our loyalty and support, something mysterious but very real, something upon which we can place our faith, set our hearts, and build our love over and over again, year after year, generation after generation. May it always be so, and amen. So we're coming to the end of our worship service, and we're also coming to the end of an era in the life of our beloved congregation. Change is always afoot, but today marks a change that I, for one, really do not want to see happen. This is Joanne Stoffregan's last Sunday morning with us here at Heritage, at least as a resident of Cincinnati, but as we've discovered, with so many others who have moved away in recent years who are watching us now on Zoom, I hope that we can count on occasional Zoom and in-person visits in the future, but the fact is that later this week, Joanne and Mark will be moving to Columbus. For more than 2 decades, Joanne Stoffregan has quietly, but with deep and powerful commitment, done just about everything there is to do here at Heritage Church, supporting our work and mission in countless ways. Here are just a few. She has sung in our choir. She has served on our board, our personnel committee, our caring circle, our committee on ministry. She has taught our children. The list goes on. Oh, and at least one more thing. I will be eternally grateful to her for her service on the search committee that brought me here to Heritage Church. Very few people have given more to Heritage, and in 2012, the first year she was eligible, she was given the Heritage Award. This morning, I know that Joanne, being a singer, will find it easier to sing her feelings than to say them. But a couple of weeks ago, she did pre-record some feelings, and we're going to let her speak those pre-recorded feelings and then sing for us, as she has requested, a loving goodbye.
Hi, I'm Joanne Stoffregan. Heritage has been my church home for over 20 years now. And sadly, we will be moving in a couple weeks to Columbus, Ohio. And missing my church family and my church home is one of the hardest things about this move. Love is the spirit of this church. That was what brought me here to begin with and has kept me here all these years. It's a very important part of the support that I have given for 20 years. I've been a member of the choir and a founding member of the caring circle all this time, along with a lot of other committee and board involvement, and also supported, of course, with pledges and special gifts financially. And I certainly encourage all the current members and members to come in the future to continue to support the church here because we are so welcoming and open to personal exploration of faith. And I'm going to miss each and every family here that I feel a connection with from the last 20 years. So I love you all and keep up the excellent work. Thank you.
To bring tissues. I think you want to sing for us.
May the blessings of love rest upon you. May peace abide with you. May God's presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore.
And don't bother to sit down. If everybody's willing, please form a circle around the sanctuary, joining hands if that's comfortable for you. And repeat after me our benediction. Please join in on Zoom or wherever you are this morning or in the future. May the Spirit of life, that each of us possesses, flow from one to the other. May it stay with us, and bring us peace and harmony, until we meet again. Amen. Go in peace.